welcome to day 3 of WTCE. We're thrilled to be here. My name's Kelly Stevenson, owner of Jetvine, and I'm joined by Audrey Hart from Virgin Atlantic, Senior Food and Beverage Manager, and Nathan Clemes from Unrooted, the fabulous healthy shot with the unique baobab fruit. And we're going to explore not just the healthy products that is Unrooted and the story that goes along with that, but why healthy options are a trend that's growing for airlines. So I'm not going to talk very much. I'm going to leave it over to Audrey and Nathan because they've got a really, really good story to tell. And something happened earlier this year that we want to sort of share with you. And first of all, Audrey, I want to ask you, why do you think healthy options are important for airlines now here in 2024?
So for us, it's driven by two main considerations. Firstly, obviously, the customer demand. We recognize from the trends of consumption on the ground that customers are becoming increasingly focused on their well-being, their lifestyle choices, for longevity, for better health, in their day-to-day lives. And of course, those expectations carry on wherever they go in the world and as part of their journeys. So that's the first element. The second one is that we're very much aware that our element actually comes with challenges when you want to maintain the lifestyles. May it be the time changes, the environment of being in air and feeling dehydrated, the jet lags potentially that you're experiencing when you're flying on night flights, and the lack of rest that can come with it, and therefore sleeping a key contributor to good health, and nutrition, gut health being the other side of it. So considering all of this, very important for us as an airline to responsibly play a part in supporting our customers to continue to make good choices and also facilitate it at purposeful moments of the journey.
Great, thank you, Audrey. And where do you see the main touch points when customers can enjoy those healthy products? And maybe this is a good opportunity to talk about Unrooted and how we looked at the breakfast tray and how there was an opportunity there.
Absolutely. So, for us, very simply, we believe that making healthy, good choices is relevant throughout the journey. Wherever you're flying to, however long for, and whether it is a day flight, a night flight, something that starts in the morning, something that starts at night. We always want to create opportunities to showcase product that is purposeful and functional. And so with that in mind, we started a journey, really during the pandemic when we had a little bit of time for reflection and for a sense of new direction, to put out on paper our new strategy on how we would want to look at our service proposition from food to beverage. And the moments in our services that already existed and became an opportunity to elevate and create moments of health and consideration, and those that didn't exist yet and that we ought to be creating. That led us, looking at our service by service, we observed and reviewed our breakfast offering. It was already quite comprehensive, considering whether a customer wants to have, a full indulgent moment and a full English breakfast, and or if they wanted to sleep for longer and rest and just grab and go. But in the drink space, we had a very traditional range of juices, tea, coffees, some not caffeinated, of course, but a quite classic range, I would say. And immediately we knew there was something that we could do that would be playful, but super functional, allowing the customers to have that health kick in the morning that would just energize them, start them right at the point of waking up and being ready for landing and starting a day on another continent in another location, and also make a point of difference and making it a more premium offering, really, amongst a very cohesive service. Once we knew what we wanted to do, we set upon the task of finding the right partner and the right product to support us on that journey. And I guess that was visible when we collected a highly commended on sustainability. A couple of days ago, for us at the core, sustainability considerations are a a non-negotiation point. We're always going to try and select the partners that care the deepest for the planet and its people. We do enjoy when they are Corp certified. It's not a be-all and end-all, but of course it comes with gravitas and value, and we do respect that highly. And we also had to take in consideration the limitations that come with our environment. So we knew we wanted to limit waste. So going for a fresh or frozen to thaw product could have been limiting, because that didn't ensure complete depletion of the stock. If everything wasn't consumed, potentially that would turn into waste. We didn't want that. We wanted something that would have resilience, so that we should ensure that there would be no waste from the product that we load. We also knew that the majority of our night flights are from the US, from the Caribbean in our network. So we also knew we wanted a brand that was trusted, that was recognizable, ideally British if we could do it, but anchored into what is available to our customers in their day-to-day life in the UK. It became very clear very quickly that Unrooted was really at the top of our list. And my colleague Shida, who runs our beverage program, had a conversation with Nathan's team. What was super exciting for us was to identify a product that had a really great pack size, really small, very efficient packing, no single-use plastic, certified B Corp. I'm not going to say anymore because I know you're going to talk about your brand, but I'm excited. And was ambient as well, so allowed us to load the product in the UK and also be able to surface it to all our night flights around the network. And so our trial started in January. In January, we started offering the Unrooted Mighty Ginger Shot, right here, as part of our breakfast proposition. And before I hand over to Nathan, I'll say the customer response, both for customers and crew, was superb. Customers loved it. They loved the touch. They were also on the path of discovery at time, because that might not have been something they tried before, but they trusted our brand and our careful process of selection to give it a go. And when they did, they were converted. And I know from my conversation with Shida, we always get very excited when the brands that we work with email us saying, we received another email saying, I flew with Virgin Atlantic and I tried your product and I love it. So taking our customers on the journey, supporting them, and working with great partners, achieved everything we wanted to achieve, and we're excited to do more.
Thank you, Audrey. So that's the story of Unrooted being onboarded onto Virgin Atlantic. But Nathan, I wonder, can you tell the story? Well, first of all, can you explain to people that have never heard of the baobab fruit, what the baobab is? But also tell a bit of your story outside of the amazing taste and great gut health and great attributes of the actual product, and the story around Unrooted in total. And we've got a lovely video playing over there. But it'd be lovely to hear from you about what the baobab is and how you got the journey going with Unrooted.
Of course. So the baobab fruit grows on the most amazing baobab tree, and you've seen it here behind on a loop for a little while now. The baobab tree, first and foremost, is probably one of the most iconic trees in the world. You can plant the tree, it won't produce a fruit for 50 to 200 years. They only grow in the wild, and they live for maybe up to 2,000 years. And these trees have been around, some research came out the other week that showed they've been around for over 2 million years. Humans have eaten the fruit for at least 10,000 years. So there's huge history and longevity with the fruit from this tree. It hasn't hit, let's say, the mainstream up until really the last decade because of this difficult wild supply chain. We've now been working with amazing harvesters and teams in Zimbabwe, where we're now able to bring this wild harvested fruit, work with local communities, and bring it to life, really, so that people can discover how amazing and how healthy this product is. So the fruit itself is genuinely one of the healthiest fruits or vegetables or anything in the world. It has 5 times more fiber than oats, so it's 50% fiber, this fruit. It has 5 times the vitamin C of oranges. It has double the antioxidants of acai, and you go on and on and on down the list of micronutrients. It pretty much tops the tables of anything you're going to look at. And because it's naturally a dry fruit powder in its raw form, very unique in that way, you actually get all of those nutrients into the final product. There's no juicing process, for instance, where you lose a lot of fiber like you would with an apple, for instance. So it's an amazing product that delivers an amazing health benefit. The reason, I guess, we started using Baobab, there's lots of different reasons. Some of them are very personal to me as well. So I grew up in South Africa. My dad worked for a big soft drinks company, so I grew up loving brands, loving the drinks industry. And then when I moved to the UK and decided, I want to work in the drink space, I love this space, I've been passionate about it since I was a kid, I realized a couple things. One, that single ingredient functional health stories were really difficult to find. You had functional products that were very unhealthy, and then you had health stories that were a little bit boring often. And we thought that we could use a particularly amazing ingredient with an amazing story to build a brand that was genuinely healthy and great for people, but that also was exciting and a lot of fun too. And then we came across Baobab. I remembered the tree from my childhood in South Africa, going on safari. And one thing that was particularly important to me was, this was a few years ago now, but we looked at the market and realized that you see Italian ingredients and German ingredients and French and ingredients from China and all over the world, but you rarely saw African ingredients being used in a really significant, meaningful way in the market. They weren't being celebrated in the way that I thought they should be, because from my memory of growing up in South Africa, there's amazing food, amazing people, amazing culture, and I wanted that to come to life in a brand. And so we dove headfirst into the world of Baobab. It's a difficult fruit to work with. It's a difficult supply chain, but something that's well worth it, both from a health perspective and from a sustainability perspective, which I know was really important to the Virgin team.
Thanks, Nathan. And then I'm sure, and you already touched on it, Audrey, that sustainability and being able to tell that brand story, which you've told beautifully there, Nathan, but sustainability is obviously, as you've said, very important to you. Can you expand a bit, not just on the story of how you brought the brand to life and how you use the baobab fruit, but what you're doing for the trees and maybe a bit more around what you're doing in Africa?
Sure. So there's a few ways in which we approach sustainability at Unrooted. There's a sort of a governance approach, I would say, where we ensure that the supply chain itself, before we get into the detail of what we do specifically as a brand, we want to make sure the supply chain does good in and of itself. So I joined the board of the African Baobab Alliance a couple years ago so that I could have an industry-wide view of what's going on in the world of Baobab, to make sure the right producers are coming into the market, they're harvesting sustainably, the right rules and regulations are taking place, not only in Zimbabwe where we harvest, but all over Africa, because the baobab trees do grow in 34, 35 countries across the continent. And then when we look at what we do at an Unrooted level, we're quite tough on ourselves in terms of how we operate. And there's a journey that we've sort of come up with recently called our unsustainable journey. And we call it that because we've seen a lot of greenwashing these last several years, and we've seen a lot of brands champion themselves into saying how sustainable they are, how amazing they are, when there's still so much for us to do as an industry in food and drink, and really collectively as society, to get to a point where we are genuinely sustainable in every aspect of the product, not just on the emission side, but really when you look at sustainability in totality. And so we have three key objectives that we follow. One is that we will consider ourselves unsustainable until every child in baobab harvesting communities has access to education. The second is that we will be unsustainable until we as a brand replace every single fruit that we harvest through the planting of new trees, given that this is a wild ingredient, and we want to ensure that we're not taking away from what's required by either local communities or local ecosystems beyond human consumption. And the other is that will be unsustainable until we're net zero. And so where we are now is on a journey of getting to those points. On the education side, we now sponsor the education of 103 children in rural Zimbabwean communities whose parents harvest the fruit that are in these drinks right here. And that number has increased every single year. We're hoping to get it to close to 150 kids by the end of this year. There's probably 10, 15,000 children in Zimbabwe alone who don't always have access to education, and that is because public school is not free in Zimbabwe. It costs anywhere from $50 to $200 a year, depending on the district per child. So there is huge potential for Baobab as an industry to really transform children's lives in a really meaningful way that just hasn't been done before. On the environmental side and the tree planting side, we work with the Baobab Foundation in South Africa, where we look at different really novel ways of protecting and planting new trees. Baobab trees are probably the most resilient species out there. There's trees that exist today that still fruit that are 15, 16, 1700 years old. It is really, really remarkable. People often think that sometimes that we need to cut down the trees to get the fruit or something like that. The opposite is the case. Taking the fruit, harvesting the fruit protects the trees. It demonstrates that there's economic value in these trees, and then local communities really come together to protect not only that particular tree, but also the wider ecosystem, because baobabs are a keystone species. So they are really, really crucial for not only economic value today, but for probably 50, 60 other species of animals and insects and all these sort of wonderful things. At the moment, we've either planted or protected over 400 trees across Zimbabwe and South Africa. And then lastly, from a net zero perspective, probably the most difficult challenge of them all, because it's not just about money, really. It's about us as a business, our industry, governments, regulators, coming together over the next few decades to just transform supply chains, really. And at the moment, we are net zero, carbon neutral. We perform annual life cycle assessments, and over the coming sort of years, hopefully we can chip away at reducing emissions further and being less reliant on offsets, no matter what their quality is.
Thanks, Nathan. That's an amazing story. It's one that I knew, and I'm very, very thrilled that we've been able to share that at the Taste of Travel Theatre. So thank you to the team here for enabling that story to be shared. I can't imagine why anyone wouldn't want to taste a baobab fruit unrooted shot, so we have some here to share. And also, does anyone have any questions for Nathan or indeed Audrey? Julianne?
So my question is, what's it like to work with Virgin Atlantic, and how did you, how was the onboarding process for you, being a startup?
Great question. Thanks, Julianne.
Very good question. So, funnily enough, there was a few initial conversations with Sheeta, stretching back probably to early last year, but it was actually here at WTC last year where we got the opportunities to sit down face to face for a couple hours and just share this story that I just told everyone here. And that was really remarkable, because it's, for us as a brand, especially as a startup, and I know you have a startup as well, and for other people in the room with businesses, we're often bursting at the seams with our story that we want to tell, and it's so difficult to relay that over email or in a brand deck or something like that. And so to have the opportunity in a conference like this to spend the time to tell that story in full was, a real privilege. And then that's really what kicked everything off. And, honestly, from an onboarding perspective, when we got the news that we were going to be loaded and listed into the trial, it was really, really easy. I think the volume was there, that from a logistical perspective, it made our lives easier operationally. And there was a few people in the chain, including in-flight initiatives, that logistically and just made it really seamless for us. And I know I think on the in-flight side into Virgin as well, there was some history there, and that made things easy for hopefully you as well. And we didn't seem like a difficult startup.
Not at all. I think for us, from the point we had the conversation and we knew where it would fit best and it made sense, it was all wheels in motion. We're blessed to work with really great logistical partners, sourcing partners that understand our mission, that know that they'll support us and support our journey so that we achieve our goals. And so we try and make it as frictionless and painless as possible. Although we work in very agile fashions, we try to work fast. But it certainly helps to have a really effective supply chain.
Thank you so much. And like I said, we've got some shots here to try, so please come up and come and try. They're also being shown on the In-Flight Initiative stand, as Nathan mentioned, right at the start of Hall 1 here. And thank you very much for joining us this morning, and we enjoy exploring Unrooted with you as we go through the rest of the show.